A grand welcome on Grand Bahama. New tonight on Our News at 7. More than 2,000 passengers cruise into that island today. A downtown resort is reveling in the post-COVID travel boom this holiday season. Meanwhile, 'tis the season for shopping and filling those virtual carts. But do you know how to keep your data and your pocketbook safe? Our Marlena Leonard joins us with a few tips. And then in Our News at 7:30, Abaco police say a teen is helping them with their investigations after the student was found with marijuana at school. Our News live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Candino Knowles. The new Staten Dam ship in the Holland America cruise line making its inaugural voyage to Grand Bahama. The arrival of the mega ship expected to have a major impact on that island's tourism product. Jamila Mizik gets us started tonight.
A plaque exchange making it official as Grand Bahama Island welcomed over 2,300 passengers and 1,000 crew members on board the luxury vessel. Holland America Line Captain Noel Ojerschal says the ship's normal ports of call include destinations like Half Moon Cay and Grand Turk, explaining that the Grand Bahama voyage was a detour.
On this particular cruise, we were scheduled for Key West. Key West is unavailable to cruise ships at the moment, so Freeport seemed to be a good alternative. So hopefully our guests enjoy it, and hopefully it'll put it on the map for future calls.
Minister for Grand Bahama Ginger Moxie on hand to welcome the ship. She says discussions continue in hopes of increasing cruise calls to Grand Bahama, while stressing the importance of ensuring that the tourism product is up to par.
I believe the people on the island are going to benefit tremendously from this. But the key is sustaining it. The key is increasing the cruise calls, and these are the things that we're working on with the Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation.
Cruise passenger Mark Delorier and his wife Jody say they love the Bahamas.
I'm from Canada, so it beats being in the snow. So yeah, we loved it. So we spent the first stop was at Half Moon Cay. And we liked that one, and we're looking forward to Freeport. No, this is only my 4th cruise in total, but on my wife's 5th. But yeah, we're newbies to the cruising game, but we like it.
It is anticipated that the ship will make a call again to Grand Bahama next year. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Also from Grand Bahama tonight, business owner Darren Cooper calling government's decision to not extend the Special Economic Recovery Zone order, also known as SERS, unfair. The order, which allows for certain tax exemptions on imports, expired today, but Cooper is asking government to reconsider the decision as residents in Grand Bahama and Abaco are still recovering from Hurricane Dorian.
I think it's very unacceptable for residents of Grand Bahama as we continue to build from the many disasters that we have been faced with. Coming out of Dorian, going into the pandemic, persons have lost their jobs, lost their ability to be able to take care of their family.
Cooper says he's hoping the decision is reversed.
I think we should honor the forms that persons do have, move the red tape that may come along with them being able to honor those forms, and allow people to be able to comfortably get back to a sense of normalcy.
Now, other residents are speaking out on this tonight. We've got the full story coming up in Our News at 7:30. In other news, a 26-year-old man charged with the murder of an alleged gang member says he fears for his life. Glenardo Johnson appearing before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt, charged with the October 4th shooting death of Giovanni Stickman LaFleur. Prosecutors say LaFleur stopped his Route 15A bus on Robinson Road to let off a passenger. Prosecutors say Johnson was that passenger and shot LaFleur in the head while exiting the bus. LaFleur, who was on bail for a 2015 murder, died at the scene. Johnson wasn't asked to plead and was remanded to prison until March 19th. Johnson alleged that LaFleur was the leader of fire and theft gang. Ferguson Pratt telling Johnson that she noted his concerns on his remand warrant. However, it was up to the Commissioner of Prisons where he is housed. And a wanted suspect is back on Bahamian soil following a joint operation between U.S. Homeland Security and local law enforcement. 34-year-old Derval Hanna was arrested in South Florida back in June by U.S. Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The Bimini resident arrived in New Providence on Thursday, accompanied by ICE officers, and is expected to be flown to Grand Bahama for questioning in an attempted murder investigation. And marijuana plants were found in the yard of a Hunter's Grand Bahama home. Officers from the Drug Enforcement Unit, who teamed up with Criminal Investigation Department and Central Intelligence Branch, found the drugs shortly after 9 a.m. on Wednesday in a makeshift backyard farm. Police say the drugs have an estimated street value of $2,630. A 50-year-old man and 22-year-old woman were arrested. Much more to get to in a moment, but for now we head over to the Weather Center where meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by. What are the temperatures that we're seeing tonight, Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Kendi. A very breezy evening outside our studios right now, but temperatures are rather comfortable. They're in the upper 70s, 79 under partly cloudy skies. That's all cause of front is hanging out near our neighborhood. Winds are whipping out there, very strong northeast at 23 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature, very comfortable 80 degrees on the outdoors. Temperatures around the islands tonight, it's 74s in Freeport as well as Abaco, crossing Alistown, Bimini, it's 79, 76 in Great Harbor Key, 73 in Nicholstown and Ross. Over in Governor's Harbor, you guys are 79 right now. Here in the capital, 79 as well. Central Bahamas, 75 in Kemps Bay. We pick up 79 in Arthurstown, Cat Island, 75 in Coburn Downs in Salvador. Georgetown, you're 78, 81 in Deadman's Key. And into southeast Bahamas, temperatures comfortable there as well. 82 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. And we pick up some 79s in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, Delectable Bay, Acklands, over in Abraham's Bay. Matthew Down in Agua, you are 73, and our neighbors, good neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you are 82 at this hour. Satellite-wise, quiet across the area. We do have that weakening frontal boundary that pushed into the northwest Bahamas yesterday. It's now into the central Bahamas. Some clouds associated with the front itself, and we do have a few spotty showers also associated with that front. But that front will continue to weaken as the evening goes on and through tomorrow. But behind that, we have a very strong high-pressure system that's going to be building in across our area. Notice that in the winds right now. So that will continue through tonight and into the weekend. Boating and beaching will become hazardous. So we're asking you boaters to remain in port and you beachgoers to refrain from entering the waters. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended
Still to come on our news. It's been over a year since trade unions signed an agreement with the Progressive Liberal Party, but where do relations stand now? Berthany McDermott takes a closer look. And grab your popcorn. Business is bouncing back at Fusion Superplex following the viewership decline felt around the world. And later, a downtown resort gets a holiday travel boost. Our Marlena Leonard has the story when Our News returns. More than a year after a memorandum of understanding was signed between the PLP and Trade Union Congress, there still remains a number of unresolved issues. Berthany McDermott is following this.
While praising the Davis administration for its commitment to a memorandum of understanding that was signed in August 2021, the TUC president says more issues remain outstanding. The MOU called for the enactment of a livable wage.
We don't like the word minimum wage because the world is moving away from minimum wage to livable wage. And the government has increased, or it will be increased sometime in January. So that is one, but it's not quite what we wanted.
Now, while Ferguson says all is well, he admitted there are a few areas that need some attention.
The public corporations, National Insurance Board, they need to appreciate totally what a collective agreement is all about. That's very important because we're having a lot of problems coming from those corporations. They are not following the industrial agreements that they have.
The agreement between both the PLP and the union was signed in August 2021, just before the general election. Back in August, Ferguson said nurses were extremely happy along with Grand Bahama teachers. When asked if unions under the TUC are still happy, Ferguson had this to say.
Well, when you say happy, excluding a number of little side stuff, right? They're very comfortable that what the government agreed to do the government is working towards it.
The MOU also calls for land to be given to each umbrella union to build their national headquarters. It also spoke to the full rollout of national health insurance.
The Prime Minister indicated that we ought to move, and we have a small committee prepared who are looking into the property that the government agreed, because that's also a part of it. Recognition for the teachers in Grand Bahama.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Margaritaville Beach Resort opened in the heart of downtown last July, so this isn't the property's first Christmas, but it's their first full-scale Christmas, which they kicked off with a Christmas tree lighting last night. Marlena Leonard reports on the resort's comeback after opening during the pandemic.
Margaritaville Beach Resort's general manager, Craig Martin, is reveling in the post-COVID tourism boom. And the GM tells us this isn't the first full-scale seasonal boost they've had for the year. Here's what he had to say about Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanksgiving was great in our hotel. Again, it was one of our first big holidays. So we had Thanksgiving dinner in JWB, which was sold out. We had a buffet Thanksgiving dinner in our cafe, which was also extremely busy. But the hotel was sold out throughout the weekends.
This visitor has become a repeat customer. This is his third time at the hotel since April.
It's a wonderful resort. The people are so wonderful. They remember you when you come in. It just feels like a second home to us. We came for my son's birthday. He turned 7 the other day, and we asked him what he wanted to do for his birthday, and he said, I want to go back to Nassau and I want to go back to Margaritaville, so here we are.
Meanwhile, Martin expects this Christmas season to be similarly successful, and not only for Margaritaville.
And that just sort of, we're rolling into the Christmas weekend. I think all the hotels in Nassau are going to be busy this year. So I think it's a blessing. It's a Christmas blessing for everybody in the Bahamas that our hotels are going to be busy and we're going to enjoy a very good Christmas season.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Well, the movie industry took a hit globally as theaters saw a decline in customers. Fusion Superplex was no exception, but as the economy rebounds, theaters are filling up. Joshua Williams has the story.
Business at Fusion Superplex is beginning to pick up. That's according to Chief People and Experience Officer Dr. Trevor Sherman, who credits the release of new movies as the biggest draw.
Since the pandemic, we are seeing great growth in our services and our reach with the public. We are not at our pre-pandemic levels.
Between 2020 and 2021, movie theaters were closed for nearly a year due to the COVID-19 protocols put in place by the former Minnis administration. Since reopening, business has gotten better and better.
This summer was very promising, and with the recent release of Black Panther, The Wakanda Forever, we saw tremendous people coming into the building, and we anticipate that we're going to continue on this momentum as we go into the festive season. We have Avatar coming out within 2 weeks, and that is going to be epic, and so we are just getting ourselves geared up to handle the crowd.
Sherman says they're thinking positively despite some challenges.
Well, customers are coming here to explore, escape, and experience Fusion Superplex, and we are getting good feedback. We are a growing team, and so with that, there are always going to be challenges, but we are facing them head on, and we're trying to do our best to meet the needs of our consumers.
The company plans to continue its momentum into the holidays with a number of events planned for the season. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks, Joshua. Well, Christmas Eve is just 23 days away, and with many Black Friday sales extending into this week, many are trying to make sure they can get a deal for what goes under the tree. But can you trust every site? Marlena Leonard has the story.
Cable Bahamas' Director of Information Security, Shakira Roll, wants to make sure your Christmas shopping is secure this season.
Ensure that they have, so there's a little lock that you can look for that tells you that the website that you're browsing on or using is using the most secure protocols. It's as easy as you just taking a look in the top left-hand corner to see if the lock is there. If it's not there, be wary. Do not enter your credit card information.
When you create accounts on shopping sites, use two-factor authentication if possible to keep your sensitive card information protected. Roll also warns to be careful when it comes to coupons and marketing, saying if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Ensure that you are getting it directly from the authorized vendor or company. If you were to get a flash coupon sent through WhatsApp, and this is what the hackers do, because now they have the phone numbers that may have been collected from WhatsApp. They know that this is peak shopping season, so they may target you with what may seem as a marketing promotion, right? So be wary of those.
And even if you've done everything you can to shop responsibly, there's one last line of defense. Santa has his list he makes and checks twice, and Roll advises you do the same when it comes to your bank statements this season.
Keep track of your banking statements. Ensure that you're keeping track if you didn't purchase. They know we're going to be purchasing items. We may not be paying too much attention because this is high peak shopping season, but take that extra minute or two to go and check your bank statements to ensure that the transactions that are being posted were in fact from you.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as a health study examines just how long the COVID virus can survive on bottled drinks and packaged snacks. Plus, from the shack into the community, one Junkanoo group is giving back this holiday season. Plus, on this day in Bahamian history, a former deputy prime minister was born. We'll tell you who when our news returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said on Thursday the country has made progress in tackling racism, but that it was never done and must still be confronted. This as a member of the British royal family's household left her role after making unacceptable and deeply regrettable comments about race and nationality to a woman at a grand reception at Buckingham Palace. Speaking to Sky News, Sunak declined to comment on the incident directly, but said he had experienced racism growing up in Britain. Florida lawmakers are mulling plans to reverse a move that would strip Walt Disney Company of its right to operate a private government around its famous theme parks. In April, lawmakers had given their final approval to a bill ending its designation as a self-governing entity in an apparent response to its opposition to a state law limiting the teaching of LGBTQ issues in schools. The new law would also mean that Disney would have to pay more taxes. UK experts have confirmed the coronavirus, the COVID virus, can reside on some ready-to-eat groceries for days. Scientists carried out tests for the Food Standards Agency, purposely smearing the virus onto packaging and food products, including fruit, pastries, and bottled drinks. They say the risk to consumers remains very low. For most food products tested, there was a significant drop in the level of virus over the first 24 hours. A landslide on a motorway in southern Brazil has killed at least 2 people and left dozens missing. A torrent of mud fell onto a highway in the state of Parana, hitting more than 21 vehicles. Rescue workers at the scene said bad weather and the remote location were complicating the search effort. Up to 30 people are thought to still be missing. Meanwhile, drone footage shows deadly flooding in parts of the country as thousands of people have been displaced and at least 3 fatalities. And more than 12 people were slain and numerous homes set on fire in a community near Haiti's capital as gangs fight to control more territory. Mayor Joseph Janson Guillaume says the Cabaret community recently appointed local residents to serve as guards, given a spike in violence across Haiti, but they were overpowered by gangs with machine guns. Guillaume called on Haiti's national police to bring those responsible to justice and to strengthen the presence and resources of officers. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was December 2nd, including the 2011 fire at downtown Nassau's Pompeii Museum. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, we know the rhythm and beat of Junkanoo, but what about its rich history? Tonight, our Megan Shepard speaks with the Director of Educulture Bahamas. It's coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to Our News. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was December 2nd. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1694, William Shirley was born in East Sussex, England. Shirley was a barrister, soldier, and politician who served as governor of the Bahama Islands from 1760 to 1768. His rule was quiet. Dealing with smugglers in the island was the major issue demanding the governor's attention. Also in 1815, the Irish ship Forest sank off the coast of Great Exuma Island. The vessel was traveling from Norfolk and commanded by Captain Lascelles. All of her crew were saved. Then in 1934, Kenneth Andre Ian Rogers was born in New Providence. Rogers was a professional baseball player in the United States Major League Baseball for 10 years and for 1 year in Japan's Nippon Professional Baseball. He was the first Bahamian to play in the MLB when he debuted for the New York Giants in 1957. Rogers died in December 2004. He was 70. Air Canada made its first passenger flight to the Bahama Islands on this day in 1948. Then in 1954, former Deputy Prime Minister Theodore Brent Simonet was born in Nassau to Roland and Margaret Simonet. His father Roland was the first Premier of the Bahama Islands, and his half-brother Robert Simonet was a former Speaker of the House. Simonet is a lawyer, entrepreneur, and former politician who held numerous cabinet positions. And in 1974, Governor-General Sir Milo Butler announced the first College of the Bahamas Act. The college, now University of the Bahamas, has been this nation's premier institution of higher learning and research for more than 4 decades. And finally, in 2011, a fire engulfed and caused extensive damage to Pompeii Museum of Slavery and Emancipation in downtown Nassau. Formerly known as Venue House, the building was previously used as an auction house where commodities, including enslaved Africans, were sold. On the gift of giving, kicking off early this holiday season, members of the Valley Boys Junkanoo group stepping away from their shacks for a charitable cause, donating food items along with several cases of water and sodas to the Bahamas Red Cross. The items from a canned food drive last month. Valley Boys Frontline Dancers Association Chairman John Williams telling Our News, helping the community is as equally as important as the holiday parade. BRC Director General Alicia Pinder welcomed the donation and thank the group for its support. Now for that and for all of today's top stories, if you want to see them again, be sure and visit ournews.bs. That's going to do it for us in News at 7, but joining us now is our Talia Hall.
All right, thanks, Ken. We've got a lot more to get to, including reaction to that suspension of a SIRS order.
New tonight on Our News at 7:30, Grand Bahama residents label the ending of the SIRS order as heartless as they wonder what's next for the island's recovery. Plus, new details in the FTX saga as entities in Antigua and Barbuda are set to assist into the investigation of the collapse of FTX. It's showtime for a major theater and arts center on Grand Bahama. As it gets set to reopen, we take you inside the renovated theater. And it's our culture, but do you know your history? Our Megan Shepard sits down with the head of Educulture to discuss the history of Junkanoo. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. The decision to not extend the Special Economic Recovery Zone order, also known as SERS, not sitting well with some Grand Bahamians. The Our News team speaking with some residents who are taking exception and calling on the Davis administration to reconsider.
Coming out of Dorian, going into the pandemic, persons have lost their jobs, lost their ability to be able to take care of their family.
Those words coming from Grand Bahama business owner Darren Cooper. Cooper says Grand Bahamians and Abaconians do not need any additional frustration and is calling on the government to extend the order.
I think we should honor the forms that persons do have, move the red tape that may come along with them being able to honor those forms, and allow people to be able to comfortably get back to a sense of normalcy.
And to those who say residents on those northern islands have had 3 years to recover.
Look at the state of Grand Bahama 3 years later. We've been through a shutdown of the pandemic, that many persons and many businesses were closed. And so that should be taken away from the 3 years that we are debating. Nassau is carrying the burden, or other family islands are carrying the burden. Nassau and other family islands do not know and have not experienced what Grand Bahama in particular has experienced over the past 10 years.
The SERS order expired on December 1st. In October, Economic Affairs Minister Michael Halkitis revealed the Davis administration had no plans on extending it and that concessions will be issued on a case-by-case basis. Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama Kwesi Thompson called the government heartless for the move. Minister for Grand Bahama Ginger Moxie quickly firing back, saying it was the F&M that ended the SERS order initially and it was the Davis administration who had to put the order back in place. Grand Bahama resident John Wallace insists the decision to end SERS was heartless.
The economy has not yet rebounded, so time is what is needed right now.
Well, a juvenile from Crossing Rock, Abaco was taken into custody on Wednesday after being found with marijuana. Police say shortly before 11 a.m., officers were notified by school officials that a student was in possession of drugs. The student was removed from the school and is assisting police with their investigation. Police say they are seeing an increase in marijuana edibles. Just this week, a 55 and 23-year-old man were arrested after they were found in possession of marijuana and edible marijuana gummies. Police executed a search warrant around 9 a.m. on Wednesday at a South Bahamia home when they found the drugs. Not only are police saying they've seen an uptick in marijuana edibles, they're also calling on parents to closely examine their kids' gummy snacks. We are now learning Antigua and Barbuda will be working with international agencies in their investigations into the collapse of the FTX cryptocurrency exchange. The company is reportedly incorporated there, but was not granted a license to operate. Information Minister Malford Nicholas confirming the development in a post-cabinet media briefing this week as government met with the Solicitor and Deputy Solicitor General, a Crown Counsel, and head of the Financial Services Regulatory Commission. Cabinet concluded in a statement that no liability is attached to the country. Nicholas added that the FTX collapse is a learning experience for regulatory agencies globally as the government remains transparent on the matter. Now, FTX was the third largest cryptocurrency exchange when it collapsed last month and filed for bankruptcy protection in the United States. Bahamian regulators have seized locally based digital assets. The Security Commission transferred those assets to a wallet it controls to protect clients and creditors. Well, temperatures cooling off in the capital this evening, a nice change from the norm. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has the latest from the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody for our first check on weather on this windy but end of the week Friday, TGIF. 79 degrees outside our studios right now in the partly cloudy skies. Your winds are very strong out there out of the northeast at 23 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature hanging out in the upper 70s, 79 also on the outdoors. Satellite-wise, weakening frontal boundary hanging out across the central Bahamas, couple isolated showers associated with that frontal boundary. It will continue to weaken as the evening goes on. We expect this front to wash out by tomorrow, but behind that, very strong high pressure will be building in. That's going to be posing a problem for you beachgoers and you boaters. We're asking beachgoers to remain out of the waters, and boaters, we're asking you to remain in port. And this will continue into the weekend. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us to look at the extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, do you know the history of Junkanoo? Our Megan Shepherd speaks with the Director of Educulture Bahamas tonight, and you just may learn something new. plus Holland America cruises into Grand Bahama with 2,300 passengers. How tourism expects to see a trickle-down effect. The dollars and cents of preschool education as more than 1,000 parents get a helping hand. That's all coming up when Our News returns. The Trade Union Congress welcoming another union under its umbrella. The Union of Public Officers, which is a non-managerial union at the National Insurance Board, made it official this morning. The union was once under the National Congress of Trade Unions of the Bahamas. Union President Nadia Vanderpool explains why they made the switch.
My team and we are basically new to unionism, and we wanted to have an open mind going in. We have new ideas and new things that we want to see done, and we felt like our management union was a part of a different Congress, which is the TUC. We were a part of the NCTUB. Our aim as this executive team is to bring unity within our own organization.
Now, Nadia Vanderpool admits the decision did not come without pushback from some within her union. Trade Union Congress President Obie Ferguson says he's pleased to see the organization is still growing.
When you, as UPO, and as an affiliate of this Congress, when you call me as president, I come alone. I ain't coming there alone. I'm coming with air traffic. I'm coming with the doctors, because we represent all the doctors. I'm coming with the union in Grand Bahama.
Holland America's Line's new Staten Dam making its inaugural voyage to Grand Bahama. The island welcomed over 2,300 passengers and 1,000 crew members on board the luxury vessel this morning. Holland America Line Captain.
On this particular cruise, we were scheduled for Key West. Key West is unavailable to cruise ships at the moment, so Freeport seemed to be a good alternative. So hopefully our guests enjoy it, and hopefully it'll put it on the map for future calls.
Minister for Grand Bahama Ginger Moxie on hand to welcome the ship. She says discussions continue in hopes of increasing cruise calls to Grand Bahama.
I believe the people on the island are going to benefit tremendously from this. But the key is sustaining it. The key is increasing the cruise calls, and these are the things that we're working on with the Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation.
'Tis the season to rush. After 2 years away from Bay, Junkanoo is set to return in just a matter of days. But as we prepare for this Junkanoo season, we want to first take a look at the origins of the staple cultural parade. Tonight, our Megan Shepherd sits down with the director of Educulture Bahamas, a museum dedicated to sharing the history of Junkanoo.
What is the history of Junkanoo? A simple enough question, but the answer, not so much. You see, this elaborate parade we admire each year dates back to the 1800s, when slavery still existed. Director of Educulture Bahamas, Arlene Nash Ferguson, telling me that according to British law, slaves were granted 3 days holiday during the Christmas time.
They used that time to steal away under cover of night, to reclaim their heritage, their history, to reclaim themselves. In slavery, you didn't even belong to you.
From leaves, feathers, shells, and sponges to seaweed, straw, and paper, indigenous materials were used to create costumes.
The first documented evidence of Junkanoo in the Bahamas is 1801. And it says words to the effect, and John Canoe came forth on stilts in style.
In 1920, when Prohibition was effect in the United States, tourists would travel to the Bahamas to enjoy their libations. Nash Ferguson says this propelled the festival to a new level.
So in the 1920s, we had prizes and some kind of seemingly light structure to the parades.
However, she credits the Citizens Masquerade Committee with creating the foundation of the organized parades in 1948. In 2004, former Prime Minister Perry Christie challenged the Junkanoo Committee to take ownership of the parades, thus establishing the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence. Nash Ferguson says while she understands that things change, she believes in keeping some traditions alive.
I think we have to make a conscious decision. Certain things we're not going to let go because we don't want our festival to blend in with other festivals around the world. We want to stay very unique.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
When Our News comes back from the break, the Regency Theater on Grand Bahama is back in the limelight as it gets set to reopen its doors.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, Team Bahamas has been announced. We'll tell you their thoughts on getting ready to take to the field this coming Sunday, and 3 new members to the Legends Walk. 3 of our top athletes finding their way to history proportions based on last night. That's all coming up in sports.
Plus, the gift of education, how some families are getting funding to help give their children a head start in preschool. Stay with us.
This is Our News. Welcome back. More than 1,000 3- to 5-year-olds from around the country are now blessed with the opportunity to attend preschool free of charge. The head of the local preschool association is commending the move. Our Joshua Williams has more on this.
Over 1,500 preschoolers will now have access to free pre-primary education around the country. This comes as the Ministry of Education signs an agreement with over 100 private preschools to provide early education for 3- to 5-year-olds free of charge. President of the Bahamas Child Care and Preschool Association, Sharice Wallace, who also owns a preschool, commending the government on preschool education.
This initiative by the government is an awesome initiative. I am elated to be a part of it because there are so many students or children in the Bahamas between the ages of 3 to 5 who are not able to attend school because they're coming from low-income families and parents simply can't afford to pay school fee. So this initiative or this program that the government has offered, it will play a tremendous role in providing the kids with quality preschool education.
Wallace, who owns Small Steps Academy Early Learning Center in the Nassau Village community, views the new partnership as an opportunity for her daycare center to grow and give back to the community.
This means bigger, better, we can venture out, it's always my goal to expand, so I'm looking to expand, and with the help of the government to get those kids in there, I see it coming true. So I want to say thank you to the government once again for offering this program.
Parents can register their kids for the program online at ministryofelucationbahamas.com. Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks, Joshua. Well, the Bahamas national baseball team visiting the high school baseball champs. Meanwhile, 3 new members added to the Legends Walk of Fame. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
Thanks, Natalia. Welcome to Our Sports on a Friday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. People are waiting now for the opening of the Andre Rogers Baseball Diamond. It'll debut with Team Bahamas in the Caribbean Cup. They play the U.S. Virgin Islands on Sunday at 7 p.m. Now, prior to that, of course, the opening ceremonies will take place, setting up that action as the team members now excited about what's to come. Let's take a look. With the Caribbean Cup Baseball Tournament scheduled to be held this coming Sunday, members of Team Bahamas paying a visit to 2 local high schools this morning. Aaron Bailey and C.R. Walker, both of whom played each other for the public schools baseball championship just about a week or so ago, with Aaron Bailey taking the title, were granted the opportunity to meet the players. in a number of different reasons, as right now they are giving them opportunities to really see how baseball can go. Bahamas will play again on the opening night of the tournament in the feature contest, which will take place at the new Andre Rogers Baseball Stadium. On hand, a couple of the team members at yesterday's team introduction talking about the Bahamas and what their expectations may be.
We definitely put together a pretty good team. Between the coaching staff and players, reaching out to each other, saying, "Hey, we have a Bahamian national team. Like, yo, let's go play." So, it's a blessing that we now have a stadium at our home.
Last night, the Queen Elizabeth Sports Center also playing host to the induction of 3 of our country's top track and field athletes into the Legends Walk of Fame. Shawnee Miller-Weebo, Stephen Gardner, and Anthony Strawn were all inducted onto the wall as a part of a tremendously well-attended ceremony. On hand was the Prime Minister of the country, the Honorable Brave Davis, who spoke at the event.
I want to thank you for carrying the mantle of greatness. You joined the ranks of the few and worthy. I've watched the 3 of you do great things in your various disciplines and continue to pursue even greater goals. We stand with you.
And that's your look at sports here on a Friday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Enjoy your weekend. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, it's lights up at the Regency Theater on Grand Bahama as it prepares to reopen its doors. And slightly cooler temperatures this weekend. Greg has your weekend weather planner right after this break. Welcome back to our news. Partly sunny and breezy conditions ahead this weekend. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead.
Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final check on weather on this breezy Friday evening. We do have a frontal boundary that's jutting across the central Bahamas. Basically, it's falling apart as we speak. A couple isolated showers, some cloudy conditions with the front itself, but those showers are pulling out towards the southwest. That's because of that strong northeasterly flow. Large high pressure, very strong one behind that, will continue to generate some very strong winds. We're expecting some gusts, even up to possibly gale force across the extreme northern islands, well to the north of us. But those strong winds will continue to hamper the boating and the beaching conditions for the weekend. So we're asking you boaters and you beachgoers to remain out of the water because of these rough conditions. Over the next couple of days, that high will slide out. Our winds should start to fall off, but we expect these winds to continue through into next week. Speaking of boating forecasts, we're asking you once again, all boaters and you beachgoers, to remain in port. There's a high chance or high risk of rip currents. Winds will be northeast to east at 15 to 25 knots. They could increase 20 to 25 knots occasionally. You'll see it will be very rough, 5 to 7 feet, but up to 13 feet in some northeast to easterly swells, and they will be mainly along the Atlantic exposed shorelines. Your low tide will be at 9:36 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. And in your extended forecast, pretty nice weather except for the winds. Should continue through. Our temperatures should be rather comfortable. They should be in the low to mid 80s. Overnight low temperatures would be in the upper 60s to the low to mid 70s. And we don't expect much in terms of any rainfall throughout the period. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Greg. A local filmmaker is being showcased at the Atlantis Resort. Tonight and tomorrow at 7 p.m. showings of a short film presented by Dario Eriks Productions will take place. The playwright turned filmmaker Dario Eriks tells us what the transition from the stage to screen productions has been like.
Well, transitioning from the stage itself is, from the stage to screen is something completely they're similar, but it's different. On stage, you get the audience direct feedback, but on camera, you really have to portray that role and sell yourself. You don't really know how the audience is going to take it until it's screening time, so I'm kind of nervous right now, but I'm up for the challenge. This is something that I'm really passionate about. I've been doing it since I was a kid, writing skits, plays, commercials, so I think the big screen rather is where I'm supposed to be.
Actors Osborne Lockhart and Franz Ferguson are in multiple films in the showcase, and both are urging Bahamians to come out and show support and interest in the Bahamian film industry.
It's definitely something we have to grow because Bahamians are full of talent. We just need a way to display them. So these series of movies is just the way that a few of us can display it.
And us being actors, we want to continue and keep the Bahamas on the map on a different aspect. India does it, the United States, of course, Africa does it, so why can't we? And we have great talent here in the Bahamas. I mean, great talent. It's just that we just need a platform to push and share.
And if you missed tonight's showing, you can find tickets on eventbrite.com for tomorrow's final showing. A major theater art center in Grand Bahama is preparing to reopen its doors to the public in just a few days. Tonight, the president of the Freeport Players Guild says after lots of hard work, he's pleased that performing arts can return to its full potential on the island.
People would never know the days we've literally cried, the amount of hours spent here, literally just to bring a building back. And to some people that may be just a building, but as I referred to it earlier, this is considered a second home for most of us. And again, it's such an important facility and organization to the island. We have no movie theater. We have very limited social resources here on the island. So the theater is important.
That's president of the Freeport Players Guild, Preston Knowles, expressing his gratitude to the community for their support over the past 3 years. Hurricane Dorian caused significant damage, resulting in entertainment coming to a halt at the theater.
We experienced water from the back straight to the front of the facility, and that cost us speakers, lights, entirely compromised electrical system, and of course a lot of past memories in terms of pictures, props, things that would have been a part of this building for the past 50, 60 years.
While more equipment is still needed, the president says the building can now effectively carry out productions thanks to several partners, including the Grand Bahama Port Authority, who donated $60,000.
They were able to refurbish the entire backstage area, our makeup areas, the bathrooms. We got a new garage door for service entries and for larger pieces. They would have, as you can see, if you drive past the building is now blue.
A grand reopening will be held on December 9th at the theater. Director of Public Relations for the Freeport Players Guild, Desiree Joseph, says it will be the first show on their newly rebuilt stage.
It's going to take us through time. It's called The Show Must Go On. And so the performances are going to take us through the time of the Regency Theater.
Positive news coming out of my hometown, Grand Bahama. And to watch that story or any of the stories you may have missed tonight, you can stay up to date with all the latest news at ournews.bs. And remember, you can also share all of your favorite stories right from the Our News Bahamas Facebook page. And with that, we thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.